Karen Reed led into court in handcuffs. She pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder in the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O Kefee.
And how do you wish to plead to those indictments?
Nothing. Reed's defense lawyer sharing these pictures of the couple during happier times. Prosecutors believe Reed hit him with her SUV outside the home of a Canton police officer after a night of drinking. It happened during a January snowstorm.
In the same area where the body had been recovered, 2 red plastic pieces of a taillight were located, consistent to the pieces missing from the defendant's black Lexus.
Tears in court as the prosecutor described the medical examiner's findings, including 2 black eyes, skull fractures, and hypothermia.
She opined from her examination that the significant blunt force trauma injuries occurred prior to Mr. O'Keefe's becoming hypothermic.
Reed's lawyer flagging what he says are ethics problems. He says the investigating trooper is friends with the Canton officer who owns the home where O'Keefe was found.
We have uncovered that the lead detective is very close with the owners of that property. And he was supposedly assigned to the case to avoid the appearance of impropriety.
He also made the claim that evidence may have been doctored, though he did not elaborate.
We have photographic evidence that my client's vehicle, before it was taken by the police, was in different condition than when the police actually evaluated it.
Said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in his blood. I was the only one trying to save his life.
Why'd you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times she admitted to it.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything. Folks, this is what it looks like when you bring false charges against an innocent person. The Commonwealth did their worst. They brought the weight of the state based on spurious charges, based on compromised investigation and investigators and compromised witnesses. This is what it looks like. And guess what? They failed. They failed miserably, and they'll continue to fail. No matter how long it takes, no matter how long they keep trying, we will not stop fighting. We have no quit. Go ahead.
I just have 2 things to say, folks. Number 1, I am in awe of the strength and courage of this remarkable client that I've had the privilege of representing since day 1. And number 2, I want to send a message to all of her supporters out there. Your support was invaluable. We are touched, and we ask for your continued support. I'm not from Texas like my colleague here. I'm a Boston kid. But I'll repeat what he said, which is, we ain't got no quit.
Amen.
Than I have.
Amen.
And my team. Thank you.
Back here live on the show. Let's Talk Live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome in Sunday evening. I feel like it's an afternoon because every time I look out the window and you can see, I'm getting the light bleed through my curtains. It's just, I don't know. I like doing the shows at night. I like it to be dark outside, and I don't mind the extended sun. It means that we're getting closer to spring. We're getting closer to summer, and that's the best time of year, of course. So I won't knock on getting some extra hours of daylight. I love those summer times when it's like 9 o'clock at night. It's still light outside, and those are always the fun times. But look back and all this, and I've been kind of doing this whole the extended intro, to look back, how this all started, where it all went, where it all came from. We're getting these document dumps that are coming out of the Norfolk DA's office. And it's good. We'll be able to go through and look through these files, a lot of them that, may have just been portions of the files that were seen in court, or some of the files that weren't even seen in court. But now we have the opportunity to go back and look through these and talk about them, have some conversations about them. If you missed the show last night, I talked about Michael Easter's report to Alan Jackson and the defense team, what he submitted for trial 2. And it's just clear, in my opinion, if Michael Easter would have testified and was able to testify, let's just even say in the first trial, Karen Read wouldn't be sitting in a second trial. Karen Read would have been free and clear in a first trial. But it took the second trial to get to this point of freedom for Karen. We're still fighting for justice for John O Kefee. There is multiple layers of civil trials going on. It's going to be a long process in that too. These are things that are not going to be ironed out overnight. And, I'll keep following here and be curious to see how this all ends up. But let's do this. Let's go up to the chat. Nice to see everybody here again. Yeah, Scorpio Girl says Michael Easter's report was great. And it was very easy to read through. I thought it was going to be very complicated for me as the the host and the presenter. Actually, was really easy to go through. And, when we look at his CV, when we looked at his expertise, his qualifications, everything that he's done within the FBI, you get kind of nervous looking at this report and saying, I hope I can handle all of the language. I hope I can handle all of the things that he's going to talk about in this document. And it was very, very easy to go through. It was such a great live stream last night. And I appreciate everybody that came over and watched that live stream. And if you didn't, go back and check it out after this one, or, put it on your list. So very nice to see everybody here. We have some channel members, and Scorpio Girl says Karen Read was framed. Absolutely was framed. But let's get into some of the witness statements tonight. I want to go through the witness statements tonight. I have not fully done that on the channel yet. I don't think I have it all. And I forgot that I actually had these. I was going through the first document dump that I had about a week ago, and I was releasing a lot of the videos that we had seen in court, but we hadn't seen all of them. And then I came across a lot of the documentation. I was like, oh, wow, these witness statements from the McAlberts. So let's go over those tonight. We'll look through them, we can talk about them, discuss them, and see what you guys think. But I want to do this first. And I wrote about this last night on ltlmedia.com. And I found something very interesting in Julie Nagel's statement. And, I'm asking this question, and you can see this this article on ltlmedianews.com. But last night I dropped this, and we'll read through it really quick before we get into some of the witness statements. So did Michael Proctor up Juliana Nagel's statement? One of the most interesting documents I've seen in the recent Karen Read file dump is Exhibit O in an affidavit filed, and it should be filed, not files. I got to change that. Filed by attorney Alan Jackson back on November 16, 2023. Described in the filings as former MSP Trooper Michael Proctor, handwritten notes from his October 5th, 2022 interview with Juliana Nagel. I think Ann liked Proctor up. Yeah, we've heard a lot about Proctor and proctoring up. But here it is. Here it says attached here is to Exhibit O is the truth and correct copy of Trooper Proctor's handwritten notes memorializing his interview with Juliana Nagel on October 5th, 2022. And I sat here and scratched my head, and I don't know, maybe someone can help me out here in the chat. I think this is the first time I've seen any handwritten notes as far as any type of interview in Karen Read's case. I could be wrong. Did we see, I'm trying to go through my memory bank here. Did we see any other handwritten notes in trial 1 or trial 2 as far as an interview? I think this is the first. This is the first time I've seen it. And I don't know, like I said, maybe someone knows in the chat. But so I go through this and says that alone caught my attention because these may be the only handwritten Proctor notes I've personally seen surface publicly in the Karen Reed files. But the bigger issue is what appears to change between the notes and Proctor's typed report. And if you want to go over the notes, again, you can check out this blog article on my website at LTL Media News. I'm not going to read through all of them here, but I did actually at the bottom of this article clean it all up for you guys so you can kind of read through what it was wrote. It says, this is the most important part here. In the handwritten notes, Nagel appears to say that an object stood out to her as she drove by, seen from the back passenger window. The note says she saw the object by the flagpole and described it as a dark object in the white snow. Okay, so that detail makes it into the typed report, but now it's cleaner in a more controlled way. And I'm going to show you here in a second, but this is the takeaway from it. The typed report says Nagel thought that she saw someone in the yard, and that she states she observed, quote, a dark object in the white snow by the flagpole. It also adds that the object stood out as something out of the ordinary. But she was not sure what it was. And you can see that section here. So it went from Julia stated that she thought she saw something, but in the handwritten notes, it says she saw something. So to the core point remains, Juliana Nagel saw something in the dark in the snow near the flagpole. But here's the question, where the questions start. Why did Proctor phrase it the way that he did? Why did his type report appear to narrow or polish the language from the handwritten notes? That statement went to Nagel saying she saw to she thought she saw. And why wasn't that thread as a major investigative lead, considering John O Kefee was later found in that general area? And most importantly, what was Michael Proctor's motive in how he documented this interview? Was he simply summarizing messy handwritten notes into a formal report, or was he shaping the language in a way that minimized the importance of what Nagel saw? Fair question. Instead, it reads, in his type version versus the notes, unlike major details in Karen Reed's case that Proctor has his hands in, was proctored. Even everything we know about Proctor's conduct and credibility issues, this report obviously deserves major scrutiny. And this isn't just about what Julian Nagel saw. It's about how Michael Proctor chose to write it down. So, you know, like back in the day, what did we have? We had Arsenio Hall. Remember Arsenio Hall show? And he said, things that make you go, And that was just one of those little things that I found here. And again, if you want to go through, I translated all the Proctor's notes, like I said, the best that I could. And you can read that here on my blog. And you can check it out, ltlmedianews.com. I'll drop the link there. Check it out after the show if you want to look at it. And check it out. Give my site a view. I got a lot of stories on there. Karen Reed related, Chiron Lopes. I have the Enrique de Garcia case that I've been following extensively, and you can check all that out there. So let's move on. Nice to see everybody here. Come on in, smash the like button. I appreciate it. And let's see. Yeah, Pickle says I've never seen the handwritten notes either. I haven't. I have never seen that. A lot of people haven't seen it. So again, you know, this is a lot of things that we didn't get to see during the trials. And it's good to see this. And it's good to see the document dumps coming out, because now we can really look through these with a fine-tooth comb, because there's only so much that you're going to be able to get into a court case. Let's see. Dickie checking in. Good day from Central Australia. Hey, look at that. Australia friends checking in. It's 7:48 on Tuesday morning, walking around the golf course. Man, sounds like you're living the life. And look at that. And you're listening to LTL while you're out on the golf course. I appreciate that. And that's awesome. Let's see. All right. So let's do this. Let's pull up some of the interviews or witness interviews. And we'll go through these. And I kind of put them in a timeline form here. And, you know, I'll try to read through as many as I can. I think I have probably about 10 or 12 of them up here. Did a good job reading through last night. And we'll hit it again. Okay, so let's do this. Maybe I'm gonna go widescreen tonight. Let's do this. This is a little better for you guys. All right, so February 7th, 2022. Detective Brian Tully from Sergeant Yuri Bukhenik, and this is the interview of Ryan Nagel. So on January 29th, 2022, at an approximately 6:04 a.m., Canton PD Department received a 911 call from a woman reporting a male party. John O Kefee was found in the snow at 34 Fairview. At the time of the 911 call, there was a heavy snow and temperature was in the teens. Officer Sheriff and Mulhaney were dispatched to the scene along with the Canton Fire and EMS. Officer Sheriff arrived on scene and observed three females waving at him. Looking at 34 Fairview from the roadway, the three females were in the left corner of the property. Officer Sheriff observed the victim lying on the ground as two females were performing CPR. The three females on the scene were identified by Canton PD as Karen Reed, Jennifer McCabe, and Kerry Roberts. Additionally, a male party was identified as being in the area the night prior and possibly could have witnessed the victim arriving in the area of 34 Fairview. Interesting. Okay. So the said male was identified as Ryan Nagel, who was contacted by his sister, Julie Nagel, asking for a ride home. While visiting with her friends, Brian Albert at 34 Fairview, Ryan came into Norfolk District Attorney's office for a pre-scheduled interview on Monday, February 7, 2022 at 2:35 p.m. The following is the summary of information requested and provided by Ryan during his interview with Trooper Proctor and me. Ryan confirmed that he was contacted by Julie requesting a ride home. At the time, Ryan was with his friend, Richie, I'm going to butcher this last name and I forget how to pronounce it. I'm just going to, who was driving his gray color Ford F-150 pickup truck, and Ryan seated in the front passenger seat, and Ryan's girlfriend, Heather Maxon, seated in the back passenger compartment. Ryan recalls Richie driving down Cedar Crest Road from the direction of Kennedy Elementary School. As the F-150 approached Fairview, Ryan remembers seeing a set of headlights and a mid-sized black SUV coming from the opposite direction of Cedar Crest. Substantially, Richie yielded to the vehicle, allowing it to make a right-hand turn onto Fairview as the F-150 then followed, making a left-hand turn onto Fairview. Let's see. Ryan told us that Richie stopped the F-150 directly in front of the driveway belonging to 34 Fairview and remembers the black SUV stopping along the right-hand curb towards the left side of the property as you look at the home from the street. When asked, Ryan stated that he did not observe any erratic operation by the SUV as it turned from Cedar Crest onto Fairview or at any point while in his presence. It's pretty telling information there. There's nothing really crazy going on. If someone was having a fight or anything like that inside the SUV, maybe it was, we've seen shit in movies when people fight in cars. The car would be a little erratic, but there's nothing like that going on here. So Ryan went on to say that the F-150 remained in front of the home for a period of time that was no longer than 5 minutes, which time his sister Julie came out of the home and asked if three of them would come inside. Ryan refused and invited Julie, stated that she wanted to stay a while longer, would most likely spend the night at 34 Fairview. Upon conclusion of their conversation, Julie retreated back inside the home, and Ryan noticed that the SUV pulled up a few feet to the far edge of the property line between 34 and the neighboring property where the flagpole was located along some of the bushes. Ryan stated that the SUV driver did not appear to place the vehicle into park, and the rear brake lights were illuminated. The rear brake lights were illuminated to include the third top center light at the initial position and after it had pulled up. Trooper Proctor asked Ryan if at any point he heard a scream, yelling, or any noise from the black SUV while he was at Fairview, to which he stated no. Ryan added that as Richie pulled away from 34 Fairview, their F-150 drove past a black SUV, at which time Ryan observed the interior light on and a Caucasian female operating seated inside the vehicle, holding the steering wheel at what, chat? Remember? 10 and 2. Heard a lot about that. Looking straight ahead of her. Ryan told us that he did not see anyone else inside the passenger compartment during the brief observation in the SUV as they drove by it. Ryan did not see the SUV leave and did not note any damage to the vehicle as he remembers. When asked, Ryan stated that it just started snowing approximately a half hour prior and was in a coating of snow on the ground. While present in the area of Cedar Crest and Fairview, Ryan did not see any other vehicles operating beside the F-150 and the black SUV. Without having any further to provide that evening, Trooper Proctor and I concluded the interview with Ryan. That's a smashing interview, by the way. That's a long, smashing interview. But, the fact is this, and it's in that part 6 here, when we've talked about 10 and 2, and it doesn't say that there was anyone else inside the SUV. So if that is true, and we know that John O Kefee was with Karen Reed that evening, then where is John O Kefee? Right? Where did John O Kefee go? Let's see. Bella says, and he stated that his sister probably would have stayed to sleep at 34 Fairview. Why didn't Nagel do that? That's a good point. So let's see. Calling someone for a ride and changing their mind in a few minutes is strange. That is absolutely strange. But, this is a Karen Reed case. There's a lot of strange things that went on inside this case. All right. And that was signed by Yuri Bukhenik, Massachusetts State Police, Norfolk District Attorney's Office. So that is the interview of Ryan Nagel. All right. We'll move here to February 11th, and we have Detective Brian Tully. I hope my voice is going to hold up tonight. Oh, look at this. It is the one interview of one Brian Higgins, and that is from Sergeant Yuri Bukhenik. And I'm going to just boost this up a little bit here. Okay. On February 3rd, 2022, at approximately 3:45 p.m., Trooper Proctor and I traveled to blank for a pre-scheduled interview with Brian Higgins. Through our investigation in the death with John O Kefee, Brian had been identified as a witness present to the group and friends of the Waterfall Bar and Grill on January 28, 2022. Brian also was one of the friends invited back to 34 Fairview in Canton following the bar closing of the night and was a witness to the events inside the home. The following is the summary information requested and provided by Brian during the interview with Trooper Proctor and me in the presence of his attorney, Michael Donatelli. And isn't it kind of weird? You couldn't have Higgins come into the station. You had to travel to him. And yeah, I guess that stuff does happen. Go out to investigation, but it is kind of funny. He's got his attorney there. I wonder why. And look, and I'll read the comments by Michael Easter, and I went into those last night, what Michael Easter had to say about Brian Higgins. So Brian began by saying that he met John O Kefee and Karen at the same time approximately 1 year ago at either the Waterfall or the Hillside Pub prior to January 28th. Brian last hung out with John and Karen during the last New England Patriots game at John's house on Meadows Ave in Canton. John had invited Brian to watch the previous few games, but Brian had been declining the invitation and not visiting the home. Let's see. Scorpio Girl says, LTL, did you post the handwritten note Higgins emailed to Tully? Looks like Higgy wrote it. Oh, yeah, I did write that. I did post that. I posted it on X. I said it looked like a 5 or a 6-year-old had been writing love letters to Higgins. Yeah, that's up on my that's up on X. I did post that. Yeah. Let's see. I think it's strange in context, but something my stepkids would do, maybe not so strange for her either. I don't know. So let's see. Number 3, on January 28, 2022, Brian told us that he was coming back from New York City with his friend Brian Albert, and the two of them were attending a funeral. Brian told us that they were returning back to Massachusetts earlier to plan in order to beat the poor weather moving into the area. Once back in Canton, Brian and his friend Brian Albert and the group of friends who were already at the Waterfall Bar approximately 10 p.m., Brian described the atmosphere at the Waterfall as friendly, jovial, and a live band playing. The group was occupying a long, high-top table across closest to the bar in near where the band was set up. Let me just go on. Oop, did I go too far? I did. I went way too far. What the fuck did I do? What did I fucking do? I just went like way too far. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay. Jay Boogie says it sounds as if he came in a 5-year-old. It was probably Higgins. He's dumb as fuck. Good one, Jay. Okay, it says Brian stated you remember when John and Karen walked into the bar together and Karen opened up her coat and placed a glass with clear liquid in it onto the table. Brian described the drinking glass as it being ribbed, for her pleasure, and consistent with the ones utilized by the CF McCarthy's establishment across the street. How the fuck would he know that? It's kind of like an added detail in there. Let's get that in there. That's a little... all right, I don't know. Maybe Higgins has spent a lot of fucking time over at CF McCarthy's, but Brian told us to remember John to be wearing a rolled baseball-style cap and Karen with black knee boots and maybe a white shirt. Brian did not know what Karen was drinking and was not even sure if she finished her brought beverage. At one point, after John and Karen's arrival, Brian told us that there was a round of shots brought to the table for members of the group to have. Brian was not sure what anyone was drinking since, according to him, he keeps to himself and stays pretty quiet. When asked about the atmosphere, the people's behavior and demeanor, Brian described it to be casual and conversation taking place. Everyone was in a good mood, especially Karen and John. Okay. But Brian added that he's seen John have a few drinks in the past, but this night John was very calm and did not appear intoxicated at all. Brian added that this was a good vibe, no arguments between Karen and John or anyone else. He remembers John smiling throughout the night. Brian went on to say that once at the bar was closing, Jennifer McCabe, Brian Albert's sister-in-law, invited everyone into the group of his friends back to Brian Albert's home. At the time, Brian stated that he only knew that himself he was going back to Brian's home at 34 Fairview, but did not know who else was coming. Brian's, okay. I mean, that's not what we saw in the video. We saw a lot of this. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Let's see. Brian stated he was driving in his Jeep that evening, which was equipped with a snowplow. Brian said that his first was to arrive back at 34 Fairview, and as a result, he cleaned out the space for Brian Albert and his wife Nicole to park their vehicle there where we're driving in the driveway. Subsequently, Brian stated that he parked his Jeep on the road along the property, closest to the driveway on the left side facing Chapman Street. At this time, there were no vehicles in front of his Jeep. Brian stated that once inside the home he located at 34 Fairview, he observed Brian and Nicole Albert, the owners, Nicole's sister Jen and her husband Matt McCabe, as well as Brian and Nicole's children, who were home at the time of everyone's arrival back from the Waterfall Bar. Prior to sending John a text at 12:20 a.m., "Where are you?" Brian remembers Jen being on the phone with John and giving him directions to the home. Brian described his positioning at the dining table to having his back, how convenient, right, to the picture window that did not observe any activity outside in front of the home. Brian's further confirmation that neither John nor Karen entered the home at any point during the evening. Brian further added that he had not acknowledged any of the vehicles sitting out in front of the home with the lights on. Trooper Proctor and I once confirmed that John O Kefee never entered the home and there were no arguments or fights between anyone at the residence. It's like, you got to get all that in now. You can start seeing it where it's all starting to come. And this is what did I say? February 7th. They didn't come in the home. I didn't see anybody. No one came inside. Okay. But according to Nagel, when he drives by, he doesn't see John inside the SUV. So where the fuck is John? John's not wandering around out in the woods. John's not wandering up the street. John's not walking down here. Well, where do he go? Where's the natural thing that where he would go, right? Karen even said she saw him walk up to the house. So here we are. Now it's like setting the table here. Hey, look, he didn't come in the house. My back was turned to the window. I couldn't see what was going on. And here we are. Okay. We directed Brian's attention to him leaving the home, to which he stated he walked to his Jeep and did not observe anything unusual or suspicious surrounding the home. Brian went on to say that the forecast blizzard was moving into the region and he was concerned with the plow operating properly and did not pay much attention to the lawn area behind the snowbank. Okay. Brian became emotional while sharing with us he wished he saw John on the ground and in the snow so that he could have provided first aid and possibly have saved his friend's life. Brian confirmed that he did not see John and traveled directly to Canton PD in order to fulfill some administrative obligations. The route of travel, Brian stated, was up Fairview towards Chapman on the left and followed by the left of Washington towards Canton PD. And I want to talk a little bit about this, where he said that, he went to Canton PD to fill some administrative obligations. The thing that about this statement, and I can pull it up here if you want, but I went over this last night in Easter's report, and I think Easter made a good point. He said, you know what I would have done immediately right away? I would have pulled at least 30 to 60 days of video at Canton PD to see if Brian Higgins had this pattern of going late to Canton PD to fill out administrative obligations or administrative duties. And I think that was a good point in all of that, because you're trying to see a pattern. You're trying to establish a pattern. Okay, has he done this before? Or is this like a one-off thing? And if it is a one-off thing, why would it be this one-off thing? And and I thought that was a really great statement that Easter went over that in his report, and it makes a lot of sense. And it was like, it's so simple to think of that. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even think of that. But it was really great that he said that. So he said, at this time, the tone of conversation, and we'll go over that later on. I think I'll probably end the show with that. I really do too. I really wish Easter would have testified, but we can clearly see after reading through that report why Judge Bev was not going to allow him to testify. Because it was some pretty hard analysis and some really fact-finding there that would have came out in trial. Heather, thank you so much for being with us. 24 member of the channel. I've been here longer. Thank you for the live. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to tell you, on Wednesday night, I have a very special guest that will be on my channel, but it will be a members only. So you're going to have to get a membership if you want to come over and check out that interview. And I'll be announcing that soon in the next 24 to 30 to 48 hours of who that guest will be. And you're not going to want to miss it. I promise you're not going to want to miss it. At this time, the tone of the conversation changed, and Brian stated that he wanted to disclose some info. Oh, here we go. Some information, and this is why the lawyer's there, in which you believe to surface during the investigation, but wanted to ensure to share this at the time. Brian stated that he had taken the liberty to extract text messages, conversations between his phone and John O Kefee, as well as the phone and Karen Reed. Brian further adds that he would explain the reasoning behind his actions as it explains some of the events that had transpired between the three of them. Trooper Proctor had complete digital copies of the affirmation data from Brian's device, which he voluntarily provided to us. Excuse me one second. Nurse says, I think Brian Higgins approached John as soon as he got through the door and there were probably some loud voices and chest pounding when the dog attacked. I like that theory. I like your theory. So it goes on to say at approximately January 12th, 2022, Brian recalled getting a text message from an unknown number. The individual contacting Brian turned out to be Karen Reed. The two began a friendly text message communication, and eventually both John and Karen invited Brian over for the last New England Patriots game of the season on January 15, 2022. Brian recalled arriving late into the second half and joined John, Karen, and a few other friends in John's home. Brian stated he walked into the home using the front door. After an evening of drinking, Brian stated that he was leaving the home and attempted to walk out the same way he arrived. When Karen suggested that Brian leave through the downstairs garage, according to Brian, Karen offered to show Brian the way and walk him out. How romantic. While walking through the garage, Brian stated to Karen Brian stated Karen had made an advance on him and surprised him, with a kiss on the lips. Brian stated that he was very shocked by Karen's actions and confused by the entire situation, since he was assuming that Karen was in a loving relationship. Bro, she was coming on to you and you couldn't get the signs. You couldn't do it. And we saw a lot of that through the juvenile texting of, and I don't really give a shit. Karen's her own person. People are their own people. People are going to talk to people. People are going to do their own thing, whatever. But it's like, look, all the signals are there, bro. And you flopped. You flopped. The chain of the events led to Karen and Brian's further communicating over text messages. Believe me, there was nothing in there that I felt like it was like a teenage kid actually texting back to someone that's like, all right, let's do this thing. I mean, Karen even went to his house. He's like, I just wanted to know if it was going to be a relationship. I wanted to know if it was going to be a relationship. I was worried about the relationship. And this guy just couldn't. So one of the days that followed, Karen invited Brian Higgins over to her home in Mansfield. Dude, she's throwing you up smoke signals, bro. Brian claims he never took the trip and was simply trying to figure out what Karen's goals and the end results. The end result was she was offering you to come to her house, bro. Brian claims he never took the trip and simply was trying to figure out Karen's goals as the end result. At some point during their text exchange, Karen alluded to an event over New Year's Eve that she caught John kissing another woman in the hotel lobby bar where they stayed to celebrate New Year's Eve. A few days later, Karen was planning a trip to Boston with a friend. Brian stated that on her way back from the city, Brian invited Karen over to his home in West Roxbury in order to discuss the future and getting better understanding of what exactly Karen wanted from the friendship. Holy fuck. This is so fucking embarrassing. I mean, can you imagine fucking sitting there with 3 other grown men in the fucking room? And even these guys, I'm telling you, even these fucking guys are sitting there and they're going, bro, she's throwing fucking signals at you, bro. And you're not going for it. Like, if you're a single dude, single dudes do single dude things. Fucking Proctor, like, they were sitting there and they're fucking going like, bro, she's throwing smoke at you and you're not taking it. So this is like, they're probably fucking saying this is embarrassing. Like, he literally had to say this. Oh my God. This is all right. What Karen wanted from their friendship. Brian stated that Karen came over and the two talked for a period of time, but never exchanged any intimate activity. It's probably his fucking attorney's like, loser. And I followed up by confirming that Brian never had any I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Karen Reed, had sexual relations with Karen, John, or the two of them together. Okay, bro. All right. Brian confirmed some and added that there was only that one kiss between him And the night, I'm like laughing reading this. And Karen, the night that he was walking out of the garage. Brian further assured to me that he did not have any relations with anyone else at the Waterfall the night of January 28th. And the best of his knowledge, Karen did not either. Brian went on to say that the next time he and Karen texted was the night she reached out to him on January 29th, 2022, and stated John died at 11:54 a.m. At this point, I advised Brian that it was imperative that all data which is providing is accurate is not altered in any way. Just don't alter it. I further told Brian that we have both John and Karen's devices and we were corroborating his provided data. Brian understood the magnitude of his actions and assured me that all the data was complete and accurate without having additional information to the provided. Trooper Proctor collected Brian's printed text message conversation. Fucking had him printed out, like ready to go. And both John and Karen, which he printed from the phone extraction, he performed on his device. Additionally, Trooper Proctor collected the disk containing the digital photo data and the text message conversations, and we both thanked him for his cooperation as well as attorney at the time before leaving. So basically, he didn't score that night. He didn't score the night that Karen came by. This guy's not scoring at all. That's basically what's going on here. We have proved that Higgins did not score. He didn't score. All right, let's go here. I got to reshare. Oh, no way. I don't have to reshare my screen. All right. February 21st. All right, let's see. Relations. I know. I was worried about the relationship. I was worried about the I feel like it's like a fucking. That's someone in the 50s would say that, right? A relation. We had relations, right? That's like a 1950s statement. Higgins had 0 game. Natalie says, but that's what Brian said. Maybe Karen kissed him and almost threw up in her mouth. That could be. Let's see. I think the women knew about Brian and Karen too. I mean, it could be possible. Dating for dummies. And says he probably never scores. Quite possibly. I wasn't doing a lot here. I mean, it's in documents too. All right. So we have the interviews of Julie and Chris Albert. Why are they not separated? Why are witnesses not separated? That was another thing that we went over in Michael Easter's report last night. Witnesses should have been ultimately separated in any witness statement, right? Remember, we talked about that. Immediately arrive on the scene. We separate witnesses. We separate the suspect, if there is a suspect, and we interview and take notes. And here we are. Weeks later, well, let's see. Yeah, weeks later, like I said, and now we're starting to get witness statements. Okay. Probably be pretty imperative to get those right away within the first couple of days, I would assume, right? All right, so here we go. Julie and Chris Albert. And it was Yuri Bukhenik on February 10, 2022 at approximately 5:30 p.m. Trooper Proctor and I, it's the get-along gang. They're always together. Proceeded in the order to conduct a pre-scheduled interview. I'm going to enlarge this a little bit more. There we go. With Julie and Chris Albert at their residence, both Julie and Chris were present at the Waterfall Bar and Grill the night of January 28, 2022, and followed to Brian Albert's home in the early morning hours of January 29, 2022. The purpose of the interview was to get their recollection of events both at the bar and then at 34 Fairview Road. The following is a summary of information exchanged between Julie, Chris, Proctor, and I. Excuse me. Bella Mama, thank you so much for becoming a new member. I appreciate that. Yeah, and that was a lot of thing in Easter's report too. I'm telling you, if you haven't watched my stream on retired FBI agent Michael Easter, he was the witness that never testified for the defense. He should have testified in trial too, and we know why he was not able to come in and testify. I mean, his report is damning, and that was a lot of things that he talked about in that report too. The timeliness and the critical timeliness of witness interviews, and there was lengths of time in between all of this. And you want this information, to be fresh in an investigation. You don't want time in between because stories could possibly be changed or misdirected or misremembered or whatever it may be in any criminal case. And that's why you want to do this stuff right away. So here we go. Following formal, and thank you, Bellamar. I appreciate you becoming a new member. I appreciate that. Following formal introductions, Julie Albert provided her cell phone number to, and Chris Albert stated the cell phone number was. Both stated that they had been 4 or 5 years and they knew the victim, John O Kefee, and only met Karen Reed once in a social setting prior to the 28th of January. Julie told us that Karen was not her friend and only an acquaintance, and that John was her friend. We're doing the distancing now. Chris told us that there was never any exchange of personal info with John prior to the 28th of January. Chris went on to say that earlier in the day that John came by D&E Pizza with his adopted son. Chris shared with us that he had plans to go to CF's or the waterfall later that evening. Julie texted John that she was at the waterfall around 8:45 p.m., telling him to go down there. At 10:41, I'm assuming p.m., Julie sent the last text to John, and shortly after, John and Karen walked into the bar. I think that was something that, did Easter point that out? That there was like PMs and AMs that were not cited in reports, and that all means something. Let's see. We ain't got no quick. Hey, how are you? She said, hey, Brian Mods. If you haven't done it yet, please smash the like button. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, going on. Julie remembered that as John and Karen walked through into the bar area, Karen pulled a drink out of her jacket and sat into the high top table. John offered to get Karen a new drink, but neither Chris or Julie remembered whether to following through with it. Shortly after this, Julie developed a migraine and left the bar to go home. Chris stayed behind with the rest of the group for a few more drinks. Chris told us that he had purchased a round of shots of Fireball whiskey for the group, but was not exactly sure who drank theirs and who did not. Chris told us that John was drinking Bud Lights during the evening. Chris told us that John actually got Karen the same drink she brought in and assumed it was a vodka and soda. Just assumed, right? How would you know that? Chris stated that she walked out of the Waterfall Bar and Grill and remembered that John and Karen walking in the opposite direction of his path, and suspects that they walked right and the couple walked left onto Washington Street. Chris recalled John being dressed in a baseball hat, gray sweatshirt, and jeans. When asked about the drink that Karen brought into the Waterfall, Julie told us that it was a taller, cylindrical shaped glass with a lime in it. Both Julie and Chris agreed that that Karen was not shit-faced. Oh, quote, not shit-faced, and John was already reserved. Julie told us that jokingly John and she had a conversation about a block party since the Alberts moved away, and that John was not intoxicated and Karen was totally herself. According to both Julie and Chris, nothing of their behavior indicated that either one of them were drunk or even buzzed. Both held the conversation perfectly fine. When asked, Julie and Chris stated that there were no arguments between anyone present at the bar in general, but specifically no issues between Karen and John. Julie told us that she was asleep by 4:45 a.m. and on January 29, 2022, when her phone woke her up and it was Jen's missed call, and then that's how she found out about John dying. When asked, both Julie and Chris told us that John did not have any injuries to his face during the evening at the Waterfall, to include tears and rips in his clothing. When asked to list everyone present at their table, Julie and Chris mentioned everyone previously accounted for. Additionally, Chris mentioned a Greek couple that was at the end of their table. Trooper Proctor since has positively identified the two and scheduled an interview with them without having any more information provided. Trooper Proctor was concluded their interview with Julie and Chris. We thanked them for the time and left the residence without incident. Respectfully submitted, Yuri Bukhenik. Why are we not separating witnesses? Why are we having these two have statements together? And again, I'm going to go back on the FBI agent that analyzed these reports, Michael Easter, and that was one of the sticking points in his report. Why are witnesses not being separated. Hang on one second here. Oh boy, this is crazy. Sorry. All right, let's move on here. Let's look at the chat for a second. So a vodka and soda and a glass in her pocket. Got it right. Karen pulled out a drink of her pocket. I can't. I just can't. Let's see. Yeah, I mean that and that's like the whole thing about, witness statements. You want to get witness statements immediately, as quick as possible. And here we are, 3 weeks later, and now we're getting, more witness statements. And this goes on for months, witness statements. Not even like in the first couple of weeks. Not even the first week. Let's see. I wonder if Yuri wrote this with a heart on, like we had when he arrested Karen. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it says that she was awoken by Jennifer McCabe at 4:45, and that's when she found out that John was dead. So at 4:45 a.m., that's what she said. Let's see. Nicole Albert. This is February 23rd, 2022 on... All right, I'm not going to read the intro. I mean, it's pretty much the same intro in all of these. So after being invited into the home... Let's see. All right, here we go. After being invited into the home by Nicole and her husband, Brian. So here we are, another pair of witness statements together, okay? I mean... Even if Brian didn't sit there, he's there in the house while she's being interviewed. That's really weird. Why are we not separating witnesses and getting, single witness statements? So here we are, being invited into the home by Nicole and her husband, Brian. Trooper Proctor and I formally introduced ourselves and thanked both of them for their time. Nicole began by saying that she does not know Karen and never had met her prior to the 28th of January. She had met John O Kefee once or twice while at social setting. Nicole shared that she was aware that John had recently moved near his sister's home. Was only knew him as blank uncle. On the night of January 28th, Nicole stated that she met her sister Julie, daughter blank, and her boyfriend out at dinner at approximately 7:30 p.m. at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. At approximately 9 p.m., Jen and Matt McCabe met Nicole and Julie at the bar, and then at approximately 10 p.m., Brian came out after his return from New York City. Let's see. Polly Pocket says, the witness statements somehow gradually got more intricate with details. Funny, I never remembered things better over time, not hard to figure out. That's a great statement. And that's what I mean, like spacing all this shit out. When you're spacing witness statements out and you're spacing witnesses out, what can they do? What can they do in between those statements? Put it in the chat. Let me know. What can witnesses do if they're not being interviewed right away? And separated, Stories can what? Evolve. Details can be added in, right? Collusion, collaboration, come up with a story, right? Exactly. Allegedly. So at approximately 11 p.m., Nicole remembered that John and Karen came into the bar and were positioned at the opposite end of the high top table the group was occupying. Nicole recalled John coming over and asking if they wanted anything from the bar. Nicole recalled John coming over and asking if anyone wanted from the bar. Nicole stated that John was wearing sneakers, jeans, and a hat. At approximately midnight, Nicole stated that she had left the Waterfall and had met her at home by her sister, Jennifer McCabe, brother-in-law, Matt McCabe, and her husband. Nicole went on to say that all the guests left her home an hour later at approximately 1 a.m. on January 29th of January. Later on, during the morning, the hours of January 29, 2022, Nicole stated that she had been in bed when her sister Jen came into the room and shared with Nicole that had been what had transpired outside and that John was found deceased at the edge of the property by the street in the snow. Nicole stated that she never left the home by the time she came downstairs. Canton Fire Department must have transported both John and Karen from the scene. Okay, So you're in bed, someone comes barging into your room, you're not jumping up, Chloe's clearly not barking, right? Dog doesn't jump up, and they said the dog was there. Dog doesn't bark, dog doesn't jump up. I had that clip that I posted on X the other day of I think it was Good when he arrived, and we saw what? 2 engine trucks, an ambulance. We had Canton PD there. We had Karen Reed outside with Kerry Roberts and Jennifer McCabe screaming. There's a lot of activity going on. So there's all that activity outside the home, and no one goes out. No one goes out. I can tell you this. I don't think I was on stream that night, but I was here in my bedroom, and I'm sitting here either watching a movie or Netflix or something on my computer, and I see here crackling, and it's quiet. It's quiet out, but I'm hearing crackling, and then I'm seeing a bright light in my window over here. So what do you naturally do? I get up, I look out the window, and fucking 2 houses down, there's a house on fire. And now all the dogs in my neighborhood start barking. And then within, a minute after that, what do I start hearing? Sirens and ambulance and fire trucks coming. And I look out, and by that time in my neighborhood, there's at least 30 or 40 people. And this is the summer. There's like 30 or 40 people standing outside looking like, what is going on? I just find it hard to believe, even as a homeowner, like you wouldn't say, oh my God, John, what happened? John's outside, and you wouldn't want to run outside and look. You wouldn't want to go look for your friend or see what happened or have a conversation with, your former law enforcement. Why wouldn't you go outside and talk to law enforcement and say, what's going on? I don't know. Like, it's very weird. It's weird activity. I don't know. We've talked about this a million times over since all of this happened, but look at, it's just things it's a pretty logical thing. Okay, so let's see. According to Nicole, there were no fights, arguments, or altercations at the time during the night between anyone present at the waterfall or home on 34 Fairview in Canton. Nicole stated that everyone was fine. She remembered John talking to her sister Jen at the bar. Nicole did not observe any injuries to John while he was present at the bar. Nicole shared that her and Brian walked out of the waterfall prior to John and Karen, and the two were still at the bar at the time. When asked about the utility box at the edge of her property near the flagpole where John was found, Nicole stated that she had been open and slightly damaged for a long time at the property prior to January 28th, 2022. Directing her attention to her home following the waterfall, Nicole stated that she did not hear any arguments, noises coming from outside of her home, and neither John nor Karen came into the home at any point. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember hearing about the utility box either. It's a good point. Nicole went on to say, and maybe there was some damage on the utility box, and that's why they might have went, well, what's the damage out there? Let's see. John came in at any point. Here it is. Now they didn't come in the house. They didn't come in, and now we have time in between statements. Didn't come inside the house. But Nagel says John wasn't in the truck. John was, in the SUV. So where was John? Like I said, he's not taking a fucking neighborly walk. He's not hanging in the woods. He's not pissing in the woods. He's not walking down the street. Where is he? Well, according to Karen Reed, she saw him walk towards the house, up towards the house. So where is he? Let's see. Without having any additional information to share, Proctor and me, we thank Nicole for her time and concluded the interview. And that's signed by Yuri Bukhenik. Close that one out. All right, so here we are now April 6th, 2022. Here we are now April 6th, and this is the interview of one Jennifer McCabe. Excuse me. All right, let's see here. Yeah, exactly. On January 29, 2022, at approximately 6:04 a.m., the Canton Police Department received a 911 call for a male party, John O Kefee, discovered unresponsive outside 34 Fairview in Canton. Police, fire, and EMS responded to the scene. Canton Fire and EMS were dispatched to 34 Fairview Road with an unresponsive male discovered outside the snow, and CPR was in progress. Canton EMS transported the victim to Good Samaritan Hospital, where he was determined to be deceased. Prior to being discovered, the victim was at the Waterfall Bar and traveled to 34 Fairview Road, gathering president of the Waterfall Bar. Okay, all right, this is just the intro. All right, Jennifer and her husband, Matthew McCabe, arrived at the Waterfall Bar in Canton Center at approximately 9 p.m. on Friday, January 28th. The Waterfall, they met a group of friends for some drinks, food, and watched the live band. At approximately 11 p.m., John O Kefee and Karen Reed entered the Waterfall Bar from C.F. McCarthy's bar. Jennifer and John have been friends for a long time, and they met Karen when the two started dating 2 years ago. John walked into the Waterfall wearing a baseball hat, jeans, and sneakers. Jennifer observed Karen walking into the bar holding a drinking glass with a vodka mixed drink inside. How would you know that? She left C.F. McCarthy's with. I don't know. Apparently, Karen would just walk in and go, "Hey, everybody, I got a vodka soda drink in my hand." I mean, how do you know that? Could have been fucking water. Jennifer stated that there were no arguments amongst Karen and John or anyone else inside the Waterfall. Jen stated that Karen did not appear to be overly intoxicated when they arrived. As the band was cleaning up, Brian Albert invited everyone back to his house at 34 Fairview in Canton. As everyone began to leave the Waterfall, Jen observed John and Karen leaving together. John texted Jennifer at approximately 12:14 a.m. asking, "Where to?" Jennifer responded to John's text with an address, 34 Fairview. Jennifer spoke with John at 12:14 a.m. and provided him with the address. At 12:18 a.m., John called Jennifer and inquired where exactly the house was on Fairview. Let's see. Judith says, "I researched my ass off on Faraday bags. They could easily put John O'Keefe's phone into a Faraday bag without taking it from its pocket state." Fair point. Natalie says, "Did they ever have Karen walk on the property to show where she thinks she last saw John? What position or distance on the walkway she last observed him?" Well, of course not, because remember, according to Trooper Paul's report, he just estimated where John was. It just did. No, and that would have been probably some pretty critical information. Can you take us back to the scene? Can you see, can you tell us where he was? Yeah, that would be pretty critical. How did you find him and where did you find him when you guys pulled up at 34 Fairview that morning? All right, where were we? Okay. Number 3, while at 34 Fairview, Jen observed a huge black SUV on the street outside of the house and went to the front door. The black SUV did not pull into the driveway, but parked on the street entrance of the driveway. Jennifer observed the black SUV parked in front in John and text, "Hello, pull up behind me," at 12:31 a.m. Jennifer texts John again at 12:40 a.m. "Hello, where are you?" And then again at 12:45 a.m. "Hello." That's a lot of hellos. Where are you? Where are you going? Come on, let's go. Where are you? Get in here. When Jennifer sent the last text to John, she observed the black SUV driveway and assumed Karen and John went home. Jennifer stated that John did not reply to any of her text messages. Jennifer stated that she first observed the vehicle parked on the street and driveway facing in the direction towards Chapman Street. Jennifer observed the vehicle travel along the road and outside of the property in the area of John was discovered the morning. Jennifer and her husband left the residency at approximately 1:30 a.m. and went home. I'm going to tell you, I've been to houses before when people I've been to parties before and people is supposed to stop by or come by. "Hey, I'm going to be here," and maybe they are texting me or whatever, and they're like, "Where should I park?" Whatever. If you've been there on maybe you're going to watch a football game on a Sunday, right? And people pull up, you naturally kind of like go out, right? I mean, I've done that. Like, where do I park? You know, like, where should I park? Like, I've gone out and been like, oh, it's okay. You can just pull up over there or park over there. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever been in that situation? That's what I mean. Like, if you have all this texting going on, why wouldn't you just fucking go outside and be like, hey, park here. We're over here. Come inside. You know, like, I've done that a billion times when guests come to my house. Like, you can pull up over there, or, you know, had someone over and they don't quite know where to park on the street or whatever, and you're like, no, just pull up like over here. You meet them outside. It's fucking normal, right, Heather? That's so fucking normal. Like, who hasn't done that? Especially if you're fucking texting for 15 minutes straight and hello, where are you? Hello? Like, why wouldn't you fucking go outside and be like, yeah, come on over here, come inside, park here in the driveway, out, you know, on the property line, whatever it may be. It's fucking weird. So at approximately 4:53 a.m. on January 29th, Jennifer received a call from John's niece, and Karen was on the phone, hysterical and looking for John. Karen told Jennifer that she went home last night and saw John at the Waterfall bar. Jennifer had to correct Karen and told her they left the Waterfall bar together and went to 34 Fairview. Jennifer told Karen to come to the house and they would go look for John together. Karen arrived at Jennifer's house in her black SUV. Jennifer stated that she drove Karen's car back to John's house where Kerry Roberts met them. Driving back to John's house, Karen stated to Jennifer, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Karen also told Jennifer about a broken taillight in her black SUV once Jennifer and Kerry arrived at John's house and they looked at the broken taillight. Jennifer stated she observed a broken/cracked right taillight to Karen's SUV. So it's even changing here. Remember when Jen, she was saying I hit him. But it's clearly saying in a statement here, Karen's asking the question, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? And it is even saying here, observed a /broken/cracked right taillight to Karen's SUV. So stories change. Jennifer and Kerry got into Kerry's vehicle to go look for John. Karen was in the back seat and Jennifer sat in the front passenger seat. Jennifer described the weather at this time as snowing heavily. Jennifer stated that the first place that we went to look for John was 34 Fairview. They traveled down Chapman Street and took a right onto Fairview Road. Just prior to the front yard at 34 Fairview is a group of trees on the left side of the road. Immediately passing the group of trees, Karen stated, I see him. Jennifer stated with heavy snow and Kerry could not see John. It did not know where Karen was talking about. Okay. The three exited the vehicle. Kerry began wiping the snow off John. Jennifer called 911 and Karen laid on top of him for warmth and stated, oh my God, did I hit him? John was discovered on the left side of the property, the area where Karen's SUV and last seen earlier that night with approximately 6 inches of snow covering him. Jennifer stated that Karen began mouth to mouth, and when she discovered John's blood on her face, she stated, oh my God, do I have my period? Using a cell phone application called Life 360, Jennifer was able to provide the following times. 5:39 a.m., Karen arrived at the McCabe's residence. 5:46 a.m., Jennifer and Karen arrived at John O Keefe's. 5:53 a.m. and leave John O Keefe's house. And 6:04 a.m., they discovered John outside the 34 Fairview route. Who the fuck ever pulls an app up and uses the time off an app to go, these were the case, this was the places that we were? Like, use cell phone pings just like Michael Easter did in his report. Oh, look at this. Respectfully submitted by who? Poopa Michael Proctor. Let's see. Your sister uses that app? I've never even heard of that app until this trial. All right, April 7th. we have, oh, look at this. We have an interview of Brian Albert. Now we go back to Brian Albert. We're going to have a deeper discussion here after we've had Nicole and Brian sit down for the first interview. Now we got to go back April 7th. Jen uses life 227. Oh my God. I can't. All right, I'm not going to read the intro. We know what this all is. Let's see where they ended up. Brian arrived at McCabe's house on Saturday morning, agreed to speak. Why are you over at Jennifer McCabe's house doing an interview? Why are you not at your house? Why are you not at the Canton PD or an MSP facility having this discussion? So here we go again. Brian and his wife, Nicole, arrived at the waterfall. Okay. When let's see, approximately 10 p.m. to meet some friends. Brian only had met John O Kefee a few times and did not know Karen. Brian stated when John and Karen entered the bar, they appeared to be in good mood. They did not observe any argument amongst the two or anyone else. While speaking with John at the bar, Brian stated he did not appear to be intoxicated and did not speak with Karen. When Brian and Nicole left the bar to go home, John and Karen were still inside. Brian stated he did not know John and Karen were coming to the house and were invited by Jennifer McCabe. Brian stated that he would have welcomed them inside if they arrive, but did not know they were coming over. Isn't it funny how this interview happened after Jennifer McCabe's interview? Interesting, huh? And now we're finding out, we're saying here in this report that he said, oh, I didn't know they were coming over. Jennifer McCabe invited them over. Brian stated he would have come inside. Brian stated he would have welcomed them inside if they arrived, but he did not know they were coming over. Brian stated he did not see a vehicle out front of his house and did not know John and Karen were outside and did not hear any loud noises from the street. So when you're fucking inside your house, apparently Brian Albert has the most soundproof house in existence. As I'm just sitting here right now, and I don't even have any of my windows open, I can hear cars driving by. I hear a dog barking. So I'm hearing things that are going on. And here I am talking with cameras going. I have my ceiling fan going. I just heard a car door shut. I'm hearing all this stuff. And it's pretty naturally quiet in my neighborhood. And I can hear this stuff going on right now. But apparently, we didn't hear any noises from the street that night. The 34 Fairview is the most soundproof house in existence. Oh, look at interview over. Real quickie. In out. It's a quickie. It's a nooner. Respectfully submitted by who? One Pooper Michael Proctor. Yeah, the old in out. All right. April 7th. Oh, here we go. Interview with Matthew McCabe. So we've got Jennifer McCabe. Now we got Brian Albert. Now, look at this. The same day, April 7th, Proctor's going to go over and talk to Matt McCabe. Yep, short and simple. The old in out, right? Short and simple. Be kind says Brian Albert. Yeah, he was butt dialing. Here's his butt rolling around. Intimate relations. We're in the middle of relations, right? All right, let's see. Where did this interview take place? Approximately 6 a.m. Canton PD. See the call, meal party. CPR was in progress at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. Okay, Sergeant Bukhenik and I arrived at Matthew's residence on January 29th and agreed to speak with investigators. Well, let's see what Matthew had to say. Matthew, I'm going to increase this here. Another quick in and out. This is a quickie. Matthew has known John for approximately 8 years and met Karen Reed a handful of times. He did not know any of the medical issues that John may have. Matthew and his wife, Jennifer, arrived at the Waterfall Bar at approximately 9 p.m. on Friday, January 28th. Matthew stated they went to the bar and had some drinks and food with friends. Matthew stated that John and Karen entered the Waterfall Bar by themselves, and John was wearing a baseball hat with a curved visor. You remember all that stuff, but you can't remember anything that happened over at 34 Fairview. Everybody got the visor down. He's wearing a hat. It was curved. Drinks, food, bar, band. Matthew did not observe any arguing amongst John and Karen or with anyone inside the bar. Matthew stated that Karen was consuming a clear liquid that he believed to be a vodka drink. Okay. Everybody just believes. As the night was winding down, Matthew went over to speak with the band as everyone in the bar was leaving. Matthew stated that John and Karen left before him, and the only people left inside the bar were the 4 band members and himself. Matthew left, got into his vehicle where Jennifer was waiting for him, and he heard her call John to invite him to Brian Albert's house. While at 34 Fairview Road, Matthew stated he observed a big dark SUV parked right of the house. Matthew stated he was making the observation from the front door. Matthew stated he looked at the front window and observed the same big black SUV had moved to the other side of the property, approximately 15 to 20 feet. Matthew was not sure how long the vehicle was outside, but did not hear any loud noises or screaming from inside. Matthew stated that both times he observed the vehicle on the street and the headlights were facing Chapman Street. Matthew stated he observed, I just heard another car door close. He observed tire tracks in the in the snow and the street from the front house. Matthew described the pattern was like a V shape. Matthew stated the tire tracks went from the curb into 34 Fairview towards the neighbor across the street and then back to the curb. The pattern of the tracks were consistent with making a 3-point turn. Matthew stated he did not see the tracks prior to the big black SUV arriving outside the house. And there it is, respectfully submitted, Poopa Michael Proctor. Short and sweet, in, out, no elaboration. April 13th. The interview of Karen Reed. Let's see. All right, let's go to the chat here real quick. Proctor's handwriting. Proctor's handwriting is psycho. Let's see. Heather says, you'd think just used to answering calls, etc., to crimes, etc., he would have a certain way about him to where we would notice sounds like that more. Exactly. I mean, it's like, come on, man. Pissing the night away. Bob Vila. All right. So we got the interview of Karen Reed. All right. We have the intro. Let's see. Sergeant Bukhenik and I traveled to Good Samaritan Hospital to view the body of John O'Keefe and speak with Karen Reed. Karen was transported by Can EMS from the scene on Fairview Road for Section 12. Prior to viewing the victim's body, we inquired with the hospital. The security of Karen Reed was still being treated. Good Samaritan security advised Sergeant Bukhenik and I, Karen was released 7 hours ago. After viewing the victim, I contacted Karen on her cell phone. I spoke with Karen and informed her that Sergeant Bukhenik and I would like to meet up and have a conversation about finding the victim in the snow and the previous night's events. Karen stated she was trying to contact attorney Jack Diamond and was not sure if she needed an attorney to speak with us. I provided Karen with my work cell phone and desk number to have the attorney Diamond call me. Karen advised me that she was at her parents' house at 354 Country Hill Drive, Dighton. Sergeant Bukhenik and I traveled from Good Samaritan home in Brockton in Reed's residence in North Dighton. Due to the heavy snow conditions and the travel time from the hospital to North Dighton took approximately 1 hour. During this time, I was not contacted by any attorney on the behalf of Karen Reed. Sergeant Bukhenik and I arrived at the residence at approximately 2:30 p.m. and observed Karen's black SUV, Massachusetts registration, parked in the driveway. Sergeant Bukhenik and I observed the rear taillight to be cracked and missing a large piece of plastic. So now it's changing. It's changing again. Okay. Sergeant Bukhenik and I made contact with William Reed. Standing at the front door, William directed us to the side of the house and the garage was located. William opened the garage door and invited us into his home. Present inside, Janet Reed and Karen. Sergeant Bukhenik and I introduced ourselves and asking Karen if she would be willing to answer some questions. Karen stated she would answer questions but did not want to go into too much detail. Present during our conversation was William and Janet. Funny that they state that, but all the other witnesses that had people there, they didn't state any of that in their reports. Right? Karen stated that on Friday, January 28th, Michael Cameron arrived at John's house in One Meadows Drive, Canton, at approximately 5 p.m. Michael and John had some beers and made plans to go to C.F. McCarthy's bar. Karen stated in the morning that John had argued about what Karen fed his niece for breakfast. Karen arrived at C.F. McCarthy's approximately 9 p.m. When John had been there for an hour and a half prior to arrival, John was sitting at the bar with Kurt Roberts. Let's see. I asked Karen if she had phone numbers of John's friends he was with the bar with. Karen was sitting at the couch holding her cell phone, and Sergeant Bukhenik and I observed her entering a password for her phone to search for cell phone numbers. Okay. Karen scrolled through her phone and provided a cell phone number of Michael. Karen stated John was consuming Bud Light beers and she was drinking vodka soda. Okay. Karen described the glass she was drinking was out of as a vase-style glass. Karen stated that John went over to the Waterfall Bar, met some friends, and they were no more there for an hour. When asked if Karen walked into the Waterfall Bar with her drink from C.F. McCarthy, she stated, "I don't think so." Karen stated that there were no arguments amongst her and John at the bar or with anyone else while the two were there. Karen did not observe any injuries to John's eyes or any scratches, lacerations to his right arm while at C.F. McCarthy's and the Waterfall Bar. Karen stated John bumped his head 2 nights ago and then asked her about it, but that was the only injury she knew of. Let's see. In the morning of January 29th, Karen returned to 34 Fairview and observed the victim lying flat on his back with snow on his legs. Karen lifted John's shirt and began chest compressions and observing blood coming from his nose and mouth area. Karen observed both John's eye to be swollen and began providing mouth to mouth. I asked Karen to follow up questions regarding how she pulled up to the residence and the direction of the vehicle was facing and how John obtained his injuries. It was at that time Karen requested the presence of an attorney. William stated at this time he wanted to protect his daughter and would like an attorney present for further questioning. Good on you, Mr. Reed, because he knew something was fucking up at this point. If they were starting to question all this stuff and getting in more into the details, and I'm sure a lot of that was going on at this point, they went, yeah, we want an attorney. Good catch. And I love the fact he said, I want to protect my daughter. Sergeant Bukhenik and I acknowledged Karen and Williams' request for an attorney and stopped our questions. Sergeant Bukhenik advised Karen her vehicle was being seized along with her Apple iPhone. Sergeant Bukhenik confirmed the cell phone Karen was holding belonged to her, which she confirmed it was Karen's Lexus SUV and transported by Diamond Towing to a secured Sally port at the Canton PD department. Sergeant Bukhenik and I followed the tow truck from North Dighton in Canton PD. Karen's cell phone was secured at the Norfolk District Attorney's Office in Canton. Respectfully submitted, Poopa Michael Proctor. I love the fact that in this report that he says, we observed her putting in her password. And we know what she said when they came to get her phones. She said, good luck, you'll need it. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's like, fuck you. I'm not giving you my passwords. I wouldn't get my passwords up. Use every fucking machine you want to try to crack it. See you in 8 months. I love it. Good luck. All right, let's see here. Oh, look at this. Another Jennifer McCabe interview. And this is kind of weird because there's no fucking date here. There's no date on this one. It's like, okay. Okay, so this is Connor O'Keefe. I'm sorry, Trooper Kathleen Prince. And looks like Trooper Connor O'Keefe. Connor Keefe was there as well. Secured Sally Port, right? Okay. So on February 1st, 2000, yeah, right. And the last two reports on the show here, there's no date. There is no date on these reports. It's like, all right, when did this happen? because all the other ones, where was the date? It was right under the case. It was right here at the header. Remember? It would be the date was right here. So here we go. On February 1st, 2022, along with Connor Keefe, I went to the Canton to speak to Jennifer Gay. Okay, here's your date right here. But it is weird that it's not at the top of the header. Because it's very weird. Why would you not do that? So this is February 1st, 2022. Concerning the investigation of the death of John O Kefee on January 29th, the following is the summary of what Miss McCabe told us. Miss McCabe stated that on Friday, January 28th, 2022, she and her husband, Matt McCabe, had been at the waterfall in Canton. Jen said that John and Karen came into the waterfall around 11 p.m. Jen said that she knows John O Kefee because her daughter, and John was O'Keefe's niece, are friends. And she stated that she had come to know Karen through John because the two were dating. And Jen said that John had encouraged Jen and Karen to become friendly because blah, 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 blah. And John and Karen had been at CF McCarthy's before they came into the waterfall. Jen noticed that Karen had a mixed drink in a clear glass, and she had it in her hand and brought it over from CF McCarthy's. Oh, we got to keep talking about that glass, right? That mixed drink, right? At the end of the evening, Jen said that her and her husband were planning to go to her sister's house because it was her nephew, Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday. Jen said that she had asked Karen and John if they wanted to come along, and they said they would. The Alberts lived at 34 Fairview. Jen said that John had texted her at 12:14 a.m. to get the address. Jen said that she spoke with John on the phone and explained to him where was the house. She said that she remembered providing him with directions, specifically telling him to drive past the house on the right. Jen said that John would know where he lives and is friend of blank. Jen said that while she was at the house, someone said, "There's a car outside." Okay, then why wouldn't you fucking go outside? Why wouldn't you go to the front door and fucking walk out? Okay, well, that must be Karen and John, right? We do that. We talked about this. Sunday football, whatever it may be, graduation, a party, right? Car rolls up. You're expecting someone to be here. What do? You go out and greet them. Go out, right? Why wouldn't you? So, no, I'm just going to look out the front door. I'm going to look at the front door and keep texting away. Are you here? What are you doing? Right? Jen looked out the front door of the house and saw the car. She assumed it was John and Karen. She said she did not notice what kind of car it was. Jen said she's not good at identifying cars, was not able to provide a description of the car. She noticed, the party. She noticed that the vehicle was facing in the opposite direction of how it would have been if they followed the directions provided earlier. Jen then texted John at 12:21 a.m. Here? Question mark. She texted John again at 12:31 a.m. and told him to pull behind her vehicle. She looked out the window a little later and noticed that the car further away at the house was closer to the neighbors. At 12:40 a.m., she texted him again and said, "Hello, where are you?" There was no response from John. John said that her phone shows a call from her phone to John around the time that she thinks that she dialed him by accident and was pulling her phone in and out of her pants pocket. The next time she looked out the window, the car was gone. She did not think anything of it and thought they had just decided to not come in. That is so weird. I mean, I don't know. If I know that I have friends that are coming over, I know that friends that I invited to come over, and then let's just say the apparent car that you saw there, 15 minutes before that is not there anymore. You just wouldn't walk outside to look around and go, where the fuck did they go? What's going on? Right? I don't know. There's no response from John. Jen sent the phone call. Let's see. Jen said that her phone shows a call from her to phone around John that time, and she thinks it dialed by accident. Oh, a butt dial. When she was putting her phone in and out of her pants pocket. The next time she looked out the window, the car was gone. She did not think anything of it and thought they have just decided to not come in. Jen said that she told her husband, we're at the house at around 11:45 a.m. to about 1:30 a.m. It should be p.m. to 1:30 a.m. She said her and her husband drove past two of the nephew's friends' home when they went home. For the following morning, Jen got a call from Blank's niece and said, "Hi, Jen. Karen needs to talk to you." Karen got on the phone and was yelling. John never came home. Karen told Jen that she left him at the waterfall and thought that perhaps he was with a friend. Jen said she checked with Julie Albert to see if he had gone to the house. Jen explained to Karen that she did not leave him at the waterfall because they were inside Jennifer McCabe's sister's house after the waterfall. Outside Jennifer McCabe's sister's house after the waterfall. Karen told Jen that she had gone home and was not with her. Jen began to think of other friends John might have ended up to, in such Tom Beatty, but he was not there either. Karen was telling Jen she and Karen did not plan to stay at John's house that night, and John would not have stayed out all night, leaving Blank home overnight. At some point, while they were talking on the phone, Karen got into her car and started driving. Jen said that she was hysterical, screaming, drove to Jen's house. Jen said that when Karen showed up at her house around 5:30 a.m., she went outside and started to drive Karen's car to John's house. She said that she got to John's house around 5:45 a.m. Shortly after Carrie arrived, they looked in John's house to make sure that he was not there. The three decided to all get inside one vehicle to look for him. They took Carrie's car. Jen said that Karen was saying things like, "Could I have hit him? Look at the crack in my taillight. There's a crack in it." Jen said that she did notice damage to the taillight. Jen said that Karen was so hysterical. She was saying so many things that Jen did not think, and Karen actually hit him. Karen was also saying things about possibly being with old girlfriends. Again, here we are. Crack. Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate you. Crack. Not smashed, not dislocated, not completely out. Crack. And could I have hit him? But remember, the story changed during testimony. Nope, she said, I hit him. Remember? I hit him. So the story changed. Jen said that they probably got on the road around 5:53 a.m. to take a look for John. Carrie was driving. Karen was in the back and Jen with the passenger seat. They pulled down Fairview from Chapman Street. Jen said that they were approaching 34 Fairview House. Karen said, pull the fucking car over. There he is. Jen said she did notice him, but Karen did. Carrie stopped in the middle of the road and Karen jumped out of the car and went to him. And Jen said that John was in the area where she last saw the vehicle prior. Jen said he was on the lawn and there was a coating of about 6 inches of snow on him. Karen threw himself on top of him. He was lying on his back and the phone was on the ground underneath him. And Jen said that she called 911. They were attempting CPR and the ambulance and the police arrived. Jen said that Karen was very hysterical and she was asking people if she hit him. Again, it's saying she's asking if she hit him, not stating that she fucking hit him. Karen said that she was told to sit in the car. Jen went over to Karen and she was in the car. Jen observed Karen to have blood in her hands and her face. Karen was holding her hands up saying, I have my period. Jen said that she told Karen she was not her blood. It was John's blood from her doing CPR. Jen also stated that while her and Karen were in the back of the car, Karen was yelling and screaming at the moment and then completely calm next. Jen said that she prayed the Our Fathers together. Karen then immediately yelled at Jen 2 times to Google. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Apparently in all of this, the hysterical moment of all of this, the panic, the shock, just Karen knew to turn to Jen and say, hey, pull out your phone and I need you to Google something for me. Can you please Google how long do you have to be left outside to die from hypothermia? That's a pretty fucking long statement in a hysterical moment, right? I find that very hard to believe. All right, so Jen was unsure if Karen was brought from the scene by ambulance to the hospital. Jen asked about what Karen and John were there like they were after the water club. Okay. She said that she did not notice them fighting. She's known them to be together as a couple for about 2 years. Through her knowledge, they loved each other. She said that she did not think that there was any issues between them. Jen said that the only thing that she could think of is that once Karen had made the comment that if there were not any kids, she would not have any to fight over. Jen told Karen that's very normal, and Jen asked about her level of intoxication. She said that they were both drinking but not appeared to be drunk. Respectfully, Trooper Kathleen Prince. All right, one more here, and my voice is pretty shot because I've been reading a lot in the last 2 nights. Listen, I want to thank everybody for being here. If you haven't smashed the like button already, please smash that for me. I would appreciate it. This is going to be for Kerry Roberts on February 1st, 2022. Let's see. Polly Pocket must have said, no way in hell Karen did that to anyone. I know. What did Polly? All right, let's see. Polly Pocket. I love Polly. Polly always have some really great stuff that she says in the chat. She says, don't most of us have screen locks and you have to press the phone icon for the phone app to come up? Butt dials are from the early mid 2000s. That's a very good point. Yeah. Sorry, butt dialed. Yeah, Heather, what's going on? Are you sick? What's going on? You don't feel good? Yikes, I hate throwing up. You sick? You have the flu? What's going on? You should get some rest. You sick? All right, let's go into Kerry Roberts. On February 1st, 2022, along with Trooper Connor Keefe, went to blank to speak with Kerry Roberts. Oh, okay. Oh, boy. Gallbladder. That's not good. You need to get that checked out. Did you go to a doctor or hospital? Gallbladder can be pretty serious. I know people that have had that taken out before, and I totally hope you feel better. But you should get, if you're sick like that, call someone. Go to urgent care. All right, here we go. To speak with Kerry Roberts concerning the investigation of the death of John O Kefee. Kerry Roberts stated that her husband, Kurt, had been at CF McCarthy's with John and Karen and Michael on Friday, January 28, 2022. Kerry said that her husband came home around 10 p.m. the night and did not go to the waterfall. She said that she believes that Michael left around the same time as her husband. And I'm going to see here. Let's see. Kerry said that she got a call from Karen the following morning around 5 a.m. stating that John did not come home. Kerry said that Karen was hysterical and was screaming, Kerry, 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 John is dead. Karen hung up the phone. Kerry said that she started to go to get ready to go out, and Karen called back. When she called Karen back, Karen was saying that John never came home that night. Kerry said that she drove over to Karen while she was on the phone with her. Karen was saying that they had all been drinking, and she said that she did not remember anything. Karen told Kerry that she was not supposed to be staying at John's house that night, knowing that there was no way for John to have her come home to his niece. Karen then began to say that perhaps he had been hit by a plow. At that point, Karen was with Jennifer McCabe and decided to meet at John's house. After Kerry hung up with Karen, she called Canton PD, Milton Hospital, and Good Samaritan Hospital. Jen, Karen, and Kerry all looked in John's house and did not see him. Kerry noticed that the bed was made. Not after finding John in his house, they decided to go to Fairview. Kerry said that while driving to Fairview, Karen was saying things like, "Did I hit him?" Kerry said that Karen has a big Lexus SUV. Kerry said that she noticed that the back tail light in the middle was broken and pieces of metal encased would push forward. Okay, now the story evolves. They drove Kerry's car back to Fairview. Karen was at the left of John's house. Kerry said that she tried to assure Karen that she did not hit him. Then they were telling her it was likely turning up with someone on the couch. They drove to Fairview from Chapman. When they approached, Karen was first noticed that John said, "There he is. Let me the fucking out of the car." Kerry Roberts said that she thought that Karen was crazy, but she saw a mound on the lawn. Kerry said that she was lying on his back. His arms were at his side on the grass. He was covered with snow. She noticed that his right eye was swollen and looked at it as someone took a bat to it. Wow. She said that she observed blood coming out of his mouth and nose. Carrie stopped her vehicle in the middle of the road, and John was about 8 to 10 feet away. Carrie said that she began to render aid. She said that she slapped him in the face and attempted to wake him up. He was cold when they began CPR. Carrie stated that she did chest compressions and Karen administrated breaths. They also got blankets and wrapped him up. Jen called 911. Karen tried to lay on top of him to try to get him warm. Karen then said that she should have placed. Karen said that she should be placed on his side in case he had vomit. Then the EMT arrived and took over the efforts. Carrie said that Karen was hysterical. I mean, how are you hearing all this and you're not coming out of the house? I mean, look, I just heard another car door close, and here I am. She was told to sit in the car. Karen grabbed Carrie by the arm and was asking if they really. Karen grabbed Carrie by the arm and was asking if they really were working on John or if he was dead. Carrie stated that to look at her hands and saying that she had her period. Carrie said that she told Karen that it's not her blood. Carrie and Karen got in her car and driving past the scene after John was transported. She said she got as far as Kennedy School, where Canton PD Officer Good called and told her to bring Karen back because she may have made a suicidal statement. Karen was transported by ambulance from the scene. Amazing how that worked, huh? I want to show you this, and I talked about this last night. And I want to show you what Michael Easter said about all of this after his review of everything. And I think this is a very important point to kind of wrap up tonight. It was a lot of reading, by the way. I'm definitely not doing a show tomorrow night. I got to rest my voice. But Easter goes on to say, my review of discovery materials revealed a significant deficiency in the absence of a formal persons of interest, witness, or suspect list compiled by Canton PD, MSP, or the Norfolk DA's office. Notably, Canton PD's January 30th, 2022 incident report designated Karen Reed as a person involved, suspect, then 10 individuals at 34 Fairview Road as witnesses. This premature categorization prompted me to create a person of interest list to accurately access who might have had contact with O'Keefe during the critical time frame leading up to his death. And here it is right here. Potential suspects. This is a potential suspect list by Easter. Jennifer McCabe, Kerry Roberts, Brian Higgins, Brian Albert Jr., Nicole Albert, Matthew McCabe, Caitlin Albert, Tristan Morris, Drew Nagel, Karen Reed. The investigator's decision to label 10 individuals present at 34 Fairview as witnesses by January 30, 2022 strikes me as premature and detrimental. This early classification effectively hinders the preservation of any key evidence that could have been valid action statements and other events learned through the investigation. Here we go. Jennifer McCabe, Trooper Proctor documented in an affidavit and other reports that McCabe made statements that she was at 34 Fairview during the cell phone communications with O'Keefe and Reed in the moments before the investigators determined O'Keefe's time of death. Investigators should have been made it primary to submit a preservation request or request via legal process McCabe's historical cell phone records. By attaining McCabe's historical phone records, investigators may have determined the accurate time of her communication with O'Keefe and Reed. Relying solely on forensic extraction of her mobile device is insufficient because these extractions regularly have contradictions in dates and times as it relates to communications and activity preserved locally on the device. By attaining McCabe's historical phone records, investigators could have examined the cell site location information before, during, and after the estimated time of death of O'Keefe. The cell information could have been used to establish in general location of McCabe when these communications took place and possibly aided in the identification of what cell sites McCabe's phone came from, used for the internet searches below. How long to die in cold and how long to die in skid. Here's another one. ATF Special Agent Brian Higgins. Although investigators later learned that Agent Higgins, present at 34 Fairview, had an independent relationship with Reed, investigators explicitly failed to perform any investigative procedures relating to him. Critical omissions was the failure to obtain where did I lose this? Failure to obtain historical records, cell phone records, which have provided critical insights into the communications and cell site location information. The fact that Agent Higgins retained legal counsel and was interviewed with his attorney present on February 3rd, 2022, approximately 5 days after O'Keefe's death, during what was presented as a witness interview, would have immediately triggered significant suspicion in my investigative process. My review of the case materials revealed that Agent Higgins' interview conducted by Trooper Proctor and Bukhenik, documented in the title report, clearly created by Trooper Bukhenik on February 11, 2022, notably among over 150 documents reviewed, Agent Higgins was the sole adult whose name was abbreviated in the file name. That practice, in my experience, suggested that deliberate attempts to obscure Agent Higgins' identity with the MSP database, potentially hindering his discoverable in the database searches. Holy fuck. I love reading this report. The discovery that Agent Higgins was in concert with FBI special agent privately downloaded his text message, examined and read, following the destruction and disposal of his personal cell phone and military installation, constitutes highly irregular conduct. I'm losing my voice. These actions determined through investigation as they raise significant questions as the integrity of Agent Higgins' statements. Agent Higgins' actions are highly suspicious. In my professional experience, would have immediately raised concerns. Upon receiving this information, I would have taken immediate steps to obtain his personal cell phone records. Specifically, I would have requested a comprehensive record of call, detailed records, cell site, location information, network signaling data. This data would have been analyzed to determine, 1, if and when the physical device stopped registering with the cell network, 2, the location of the cell phone and the last usage, whether the data cooperated with contradicting statements. This analysis would be crucial for establishing the veracity of his account. Let's see. Knowing that the ATF agents, like most law enforcement officers, are issued to utilize work cell phones in addition to personal devices, I would have prioritized obtaining Agent Higgins' historical work cell phone. And the rationale is clear. Work cell phones are less likely to be disposed of and are generally carried during official activities. Consequently, his work phone would likely have been active during the relevant period, including his trip to the military installation, and may contain critical evidence. The affiliation with the ATF and the Department of Justice is a critical fact that appears to have overlooked by CPD, MSP, and NDA. And the affiliation between Higgins' ATF-issued cell phone would have contained location tracking data installed to track government cell phones, a critical source of independent cooperation. These records should have been requested from the ATF DOJ to validate and refute his statements, providing a comprehensive analysis along with his work and personal cell phones. Higgins' statement is perform administrative functions. This is the part I was talking about earlier. Remember, I was talking about this. Higgins statements that he performs administrative functions at CPD sometimes after 12:20 a.m. on January 29, 2022, following the evening of alcohol consumption, presents a significant investigation inconsistency. This claim deviates from standard agent behavior and warrants thorough scrutiny. I would have immediately questioned the nature of the necessity of these tasks, demanding concrete documentation. Additionally, I would have secured CPD's access records in CPD interior and exterior surveillance footage from January 29, 2022, and at least 30 days prior to establish the veracity of his statements. These records and videos would have been analyzed to determine if the claim activity aligns with the regular work patterns and to confirm his presence at CPD during stated time. Investigative timeline. To construct investigative timeline, I want to go down to his. All right, I want to go to the conclusion here. and then we're going to end this live because I am losing my voice. Conclusion, my investigative review of the discovery materials, and you can go back and watch, I read through Easter's report last night. You can go back and watch that prior live stream. If you haven't seen that, I read through all this. Is why my voice is jacked. I read through a lot of stuff the last couple of nights. My investigative review of the discovery materials provided by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in Mass versus Reed reveals a pattern of significant deviations from established best practices for critical incident investigations, as well as failures to adhere to Massachusetts State Police Policy Guide, specifically the investigation conducted by the Canton Police Department, Massachusetts State Police, and Norfolk DA's office, demonstrating critical deficiencies in crime scene management, documentation, timely and accurate reporting, witness and suspect identification, and construction of comprehensive investigative timeline. The lack of secure crime scene and absence of detailed crime scene log or evidence chain of custody and failure to separate witnesses. What do we talk about through all of this? Separate your witnesses. And premature categorization of the individuals as witnesses rather than potential suspects all contributed to compromise of evidence and integrity of witness accounts. The absence of the structured case file with a chronological record of events coupled by significant delays and inaccuracy reporting further undermines the reliability of the investigation. Easter's report, Ann says, Easter's report is proof that the case was so flawed it shouldn't have been prosecuted, in my opinion. I agree. The investigation failure to adequate investigate all individuals present at 34 Fairview Road, notably Jennifer McCabe and ATF agent, Special Agent Brian Higgins, raises serious concerns. The premature designation of Karen Reed as a sole suspect, the neglect to obtain critical cell phone records. I'm going to get a little pause here while this record, here we go. Records to unexplained actions of Brian Higgins, including his destruction of his personal cell phone, all points to a flawed and potentially biased investigation process. Ultimately, the absence of meticulously constructed investigative timeline exacerbated these deficiencies, hindering the investigators' ability to understand the sequence of events and identify critical gaps in their premature narrative. These cumulative figures call into question the thoroughness and objectiveness of investigation, such as in critical evidence may have overlooked or mishandled, potentially impacting the pursuit of justice in this case. Oh, schnah. He just said, yeah. MSP didn't do their job. CPD didn't do their job. Norfolk DA's office didn't do their job. You know why? There was one person in mind that they wanted to frame, and who was that? One Karen Reed. One Karen Reed. That was what was going on. Wow. Oh, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'll tell you, it's the trial, it's the case that just keeps on giving, and we get this opportunity now to look deeper inside when we get these document dumps, and I'm happy to be able to go over all of this stuff with you guys and opine on it and give our thoughts and our opinions, and it's a massive case study. A massive case study that this case will be talked about forever. It'll be cited, it'll be quoted, and it will be talked about forever. And it's still a long ways away. I mean, the criminal stuff is pretty much over with at this point, but there's a lot of the civil cases, and there's so many, I can't even name them anymore. Everybody is just basically suing everybody at this point. I used to listen to back in the 90s. I don't know if you guys remember, but there was these guys called the Jerky Boys, and they did like prank calls. I remember on one of the calls that they did, there's a skit on there called Punitive Damages, and the guy he says he's talking to the attorney, and the attorney goes, what are you going to sue me? And he goes, why not sue everybody? And that's basically what's going on right now, is everybody's just suing everybody, and rightfully so. I mean, Karen has a lot that she lost through the last 4 years of her life. She lost everything. And, she deserves to get all of it back in some way or form or fashion. Her life will never be what it was. But if she can get out there, get back, the things that she lost, and her civil rights were violated in this case, and it's going to be a long battle through the courts. So it'll be long. This is it's going to be a case that I absolutely need to keep covering on my channel, and as new things come out and new discovery and the civil trial goes on, we'll be here and we'll keep reporting on it. And another case, and actually two other cases that are very important, and I urge everybody to go on my homepage and check out my playlist, is the Enrique Delgado Garcia case. That is extremely important case here in Massachusetts right now that involves potentially 4 corrupt Mass State Police troopers that are involved in killing a recruit at the Mass State Police Academy. So if you haven't got caught up in that case, you need to. This is an active case that is going on right now. And one of the troopers is going to be arraigned, let's see, in like the next week and a half in Worcester Superior Court. Casey Lamont will face his charge of involuntary manslaughter. I will be there to report on it and get you guys some video and possibly some interviews. And, we keep there. And then another important case is a young man that was out of Rhode Island that went to the Rhode Island Capitol Police Academy and ended up dead as a result. And the answers to his family was he had a panic attack. Well, when he got to the hospital and was evaluated, he had blood on the brain, he had organ failure, he had majorly bruising on his leg. That's not a panic attack. And that is documented according to the family in his medical records. It's been 120 days in that case, and we have no medical examiner's report. And what the family is being told is that an investigation is being handled by the Rhode Island State Police. I don't like that. I call for an independent investigation. You all need to start calling for an independent investigation in that case, because I don't want to put this in the hands of the Rhode Island State Police. I want to put it in the hands of an independent investigator, just like we saw in the Enrique Delgado Garcia case. And look, we are with that case. 4 potential, 4 troopers that are being brought up by the Commonwealth on charges in his death. So we need justice in that case too, Chiron Lopes. And you can see my live streams about that on my homepage too. So look, I appreciate everybody jumping in. On Wednesday night, I'm having a very special guest on my channel. It is going to be members only, and you will be able to purchase a membership if you want and see that live stream. If you are a member, you should have access into that stream. And we'll be announcing that soon here, who that guest is going to be joining me. But it's going to be a good time. Look, I'm going to go rest my voice. My voice is shot. This is just coming up on 2 hours here. I appreciate everybody being here and checking in here on this version of Let's Talk Live. I'll be back live, members only, on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. And I will talk to you guys all soon. Thank you, members, moderators, new subscribers. I think we just hit, what did we just hit on the channel? We just got to 60,400 subscribers, 410 subscribers. So 60,410. This channel needs to get to 100,000. So if you're not subscribed here, let's get to 100,000. I want that silver play button. Please subscribe. If you haven't, comment down below. And always check out all my writings at ltlmedianews.com. And if you want to support this channel, you can by becoming a member. You can shoot over a super chat, a PayPal, a Venmo, whatever you like. If not, just come hang out on the live stream. We just want to get this channel to 100,000 subscribers and beyond. I've always been here for growth. I want growth on this channel so we can reach more and many more in new subscribers here. So that's going to be it tonight, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks for checking in. I'll see you guys back on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Thanks. That was a lot of reading. My voice is shot. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.